Welcome back. This is a second edition of Research Destinations at Keeping New York History Alive. We are back in Warwick, New York with esteemed archivist Cathryn Anders. Hello, I am Bonnie Wood of Keeping New York History Alive.
And I'm Cathryn Anders. I volunteer as the archivist for the Historical Society of the town of Warwick, New York.
We are here today discussing Warwick history.
The Historical Society was founded in 1906, and it was the result of members of several of the old families in the village coming together and saying, we have all sorts of memories and items that should be preserved, and we need an organization to do that, and we need to write these memories down and keep them in a logical fashion. And they started collecting virtually as soon as they started meeting, but did not have a place to actually keep the records that they were collecting or the objects that they accumulated. So an agreement was made with the YMCA, who had a building, what we now call the 1810 House, which now belongs to the Historical Society. And the Y had the first lending library in town. And the Historical Society had a space within that library space to show things that they were given. And now, in July of 2019, we have a whole room full of books, manuscripts, memories, census records, tax records, that allow us to figure out what has happened through time, both not only in the village of Warwick, but in the town of Warwick, which is quite a large extent. And Warwick was a fairly typical farming community and a quiet little town. It was not actually the busiest and most economically viable village in the town of Warwick was Belleville, which is now just a tiny hamlet. But because of the Cascade Creek that went through there, it was the center of manufacturing. And so there was a greater population in Belleville than in Warwick. But in 1860, a local businessman and local businessmen, I should say, got together and said, we need to build a railroad spur from Warwick to Gray Court, where we can connect with the Erie Railroad and be able to send our milk and our butter to the city. Because there are two things that Warwick is still known for: milk cows and apple orchards. And so they did in fact build that, I forget whether it was 7 or 9 miles of track, and thereby connected Warwick with the world, with the city. And almost immediately the farmers became very prosperous. We, in the collections at the Historical Society, we have a silver medal from, I believe it's 1860, for Warwick butter. And it really made a big difference in the town, and Warwick just blossomed after that. And eventually that little 7 or 9 mile stretch of track became the Lehigh and Hudson River Valley Railroad, and went down to Lehigh, Pennsylvania, and was the route for getting anthracite coal to New England for those cold New England winters. It also enabled wealthy people from the city to have summer homes in Warwick. Now, sometimes the Warwick people wanted to live in the city. Sometimes it was people in the city who wanted a summer home. Whichever way, they could easily get have their private cars come right into the village. And so that also changed the whole face of the town.
Thank you, Cathryn Anders, for keeping New York history alive as archivist at the Historical Society of Warwick, New York.